Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're having a great Monday morning, the 19th day, indeed, of March. They tell us spring is right around the corner. In fact, the first day of spring is just a day or so away. Not here in Utah. Well, we had a tremendous storm blow through the area, knocked out our power. Here, had a lot of power surges, high winds, toppled trees, lost power. It was quite a while before they got the power restored to my house anyway. So, yeah, we woke up to about 5 inches of nice, new, fluffy snow covering the crocuses. Welcome to springtime in the Rockies. Oh, I hope you're having a great day wherever you are, and I hope that this advancing low-pressure ridge doesn't cause too many tornado vortexes in the vulnerable Midwest and South. This is that time of year. You just crossed your fingers. The storms seem to be getting much, much worse, more violent. Heavy winds. Utah's been hit like never before, and so it's going to be an interesting tornado season for sure. Wow, what a weekend. I was a guest on Eli James's radio show yesterday, Sunday. Had an incredible bunch of good questions. We exposed a lot of information there for sure yesterday. And Wednesday of last week, I was honored to be the guest of Tex Mars on his Power of Prophecy shortwave radio show. Tex is doing a great ministry there, and yeah, you know you're doing good when Wikipedia slams you as one of the worst hate mongers and neo-Nazi white supremacists. Again, you had to realize that Wikipedia is owned by Israeli intelligence, and so I understand that. Doesn't mean you can't go there as a resource and show a lot of their posting, which for most part is 90% accurate. So I understand about Wikipedia, listeners. I understand completely, but I still understand also that they do have information and intelligence there that can help. Okay, so, golly, what is in the news this morning? I'm just excited finally to have verification of what I have been saying is for the last 2 years, since February of actually 2.5 years. Started out with the unveiling of the world's largest spy center, the Data Information Collection Center in Salt Lake City, just a little south of Salt Lake City, a little town called Bluffdale. What a story that just came out on this NSA center in Wired magazine. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. They have some great pictures there of Bluffdale. And the story is written by James Bamford. Flat out an incredible story. I'm going to get permission and make sure I can bring it all onto my website, my blog. Because I'm telling you, I've been screaming about this for literally now years, 2.5 years to be exact. And finally somebody else is catching on to what I've been trying to say. Somebody else concurs with my analysis. The magazine is simply Wired magazine. The article's entitled Inside the Matrix. The cover of Wired magazine has the Bluffdale facility there on its cover. Cover story. Yeah. Oh boy, yeah. Front page, deep in the heart, deep in the Utah desert. Well, it's not really so much deep in the desert. It's right there in plain sight. The National Security Agency is building the country's biggest spy center. It is the final piece of a secret surveillance network that will intercept and store your phone calls, emails, Google searches, etc. Watch what you say. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not watch what you say anymore. It's not even watching what you think anymore. It's about the most complete intrusion into every part of your life, even to the point of making you think one way. You've got to understand what Mormonism is all about to begin with. That it's just nothing more, in my opinion, than an absolute mind control experiment. When certain people break out of the mind control, like I have, I'm here to tell you they want to find out why. What made me break out of this thing? What made me break out of the matrix? I'm sure that has caused them some concern. So I'm watched, I'm monitored. My reputation in every way has been attacked. I understand why. It doesn't make it any easier to accept. I mean, when you have people that you think are your friends coming up and telling you they want nothing more to do with you because you are an adulterer and child molester, which is absolutely not true. It hurts. Because you see, that's the lies they put out, the rumors. The NSA and Bain Capital are united in this, folks. And this is why I keep saying you have to be aware and awake of who Bain Capital is, who Mittens Romney is, who their ties are to Orit Gadish and others in Israeli Mossad intelligence, okay? You got to understand how this is all working. It's absolutely the worst possible attack against human rights and freedom that's ever been on this planet. And in my opinion, it is that severe. Now, I'm going to share this word for word with you today. Again, this is the magazine Wired, simply titled Inside the Matrix. Quote, the spring air, this was done last week when we did have spring air. The spring air in the small, sand-dusted town is a soft haze to it, and clumps of greenish-gray sagebrush rustle in the breeze. The town of Bluffdale sits in a bowl-shaped valley in the shadow Utah's Wasatch Mountain Range to the east and the Uker Mountain Range to the west. It's the heart of Mormon country, where religious pioneers first arrived more than 160 years ago. They came to escape the rest of the world, to understand the mysterious words sent down from their God as revealed on buried golden plates. So the story goes. I'm going to interject here. Yeah. Nobody really saw the plates. And let me tell you again, ladies and gentlemen, that when you really get to the story of the so-called 3 witnesses and the 8 witnesses, you see, Mormonism claims that God allowed 3 special witnesses and then 8 special witnesses to hold the golden plates, to handle them, to look at the workmanship, etc. The story behind the story on that one, I just want to just interject with this, because it's important to understand, that in later testimony, I'm talking about just weeks or months after they signed this document, they signed the document that Joseph Smith himself wrote out for them to sign. Joseph and his secretary, Mr. McClellan, wrote this out and had them sign it. They said later that, well, We saw this, but it wasn't in our. We were in an altered state. They weren't in their normal state. What happened, you see, is simply this: Joseph was skilled and trained in the use of what's called entheogens. The word entheogen, theo, God, gen. It's what brings godly visions. Entheogen is a term given to psychedelic drugs like peyote, ladies and gentlemen. Joseph was skilled and trained in this with his years working for a master in this, a man named Luman Walters. Luman Walters was trained in the mystery schools, knew how to utilize substances to produce visions. Here's what happened in both the 3 witnesses and the 8 witnesses of the Book of Mormon. They had a fasting. They were told to fast, pray. So their stomachs were empty of food and water. They were praying to be righteous. They were praying to be able to see and hold these mysterious, mystical gold plates. So when they broke their prayer and fasting sessions of I think it was at least 24 hours. I think it was more like 48 hours. But they were for at least 1 full day without food and water, fasting and praying. Joseph then led them in prayer and gave unto them the sacrament of bread and water. No, not water. Wine. Sacramental wine. Sacramental wine, without a doubt in my mind, laced with an entheogenic substance. You see, when mixed with wine, after just 20 minutes, they will receive the same vision. So they all did. But they recorded that. They all took sacrament, then they kind of went into an altered state. And Joseph explained to them that's the way these things work. You can't withhold the glory of God and angels and these mysterious gold plates without having an altered state of consciousness. You will be destroyed immediately, as you see. So, just thought I'd throw that out. I've done a ton of research into that area. In fact, I've got an unpublished paper on Joseph Smith and his entheogenic skill. How every single time he administered the sacrificial wine, whether it's at the dedication of the Kirtland, Ohio temple, to, again, the 3 witnesses and 8 witnesses. Every time he gives the special sacramental wine, amazing manifestations occur in the public consciousness. Not once did any of these visions occur before Joseph administered the sacramental wine. Just a little footnote for you. So, getting back to this Wired story. The heart of Mormon. Down from their God is revealed in buried golden plates, and to practice what has become known as, quote, the principle, marriage to multiple wives. Oh, this is very controversial. How dare he write about polygamy? Today, Bluffdale is home to one of the nation's largest sects of polygamists, the Apostolic United Brethren, with upwards of 9,000 members. The Brethren's complex includes a chapel, a school, a sports field, and an archive. Membership in the Apostolic United Brethren has doubled since 1978, and the number of plural marriages has tripled. So the sect has recently been looking for ways to purchase more land and expand throughout the town. But new pioneers have quietly begun moving into the area. Secretive outsiders who say little and keep to themselves. Like the pious polygamists, they are focused on deciphering cryptic messages that only they have the power to understand. Just off Beef Hollow Road, less than a mile from Brethren headquarters, thousands of hard-hatted construction workers in sweat-soaked T-shirts are laying the groundwork for the newcomer's own temple and archive. A massive complex so large that it necessitated expanding the town's boundaries. Once built, it will be more than 5 times the size of the United States Capitol. You get that, ladies and gentlemen? The NSA, 5 times larger than the United States Capitol. Rather than Bibles, quote, rather than Bibles, prophets, and worshipers, this temple will be filled with servers, computer intelligence experts, and of course, armed guards. And instead of listening for words flowing down from heaven, these newcomers will be secretly capturing, storing, and analyzing vast quantities of words and images, hurtling through the world's telecommunications networks. In the little town of Bluffdale, Big Love and Big Brother have become uneasy neighbors. Let me just say, folks, that they're not only neighbors, they're really part of the same Edomite cult. It's not by accident that this is centered in Bluffdale. Don't forget who Mittens Romney's ancestors were. They were the most ardent, the most sincere and ardent polygamists ever. I'm telling you, folks, they were so adamant about the principle that Willard Mittens Romney's grandfather and great-grandfather left America to practice the craft out in Mexico, old Mexico. That's another part of this story. Quote, back to the story, quote, under construction by contractors with top secret clearances, the blandly named Utah Data Center is being built for the National Security Agency. This is a project of immense secrecy. It is the final piece in a complex puzzle assembled over the past decade. Its purpose: to intercept, decipher, analyze, and store vast swaths of the world's communications as they zap down from satellites and zip through the underground and undersea cables of international, foreign, and domestic networks. And let me just tell you, folks, as you may know, about 3 weeks ago, this radio network, the Micro Effect, was taken off the air for about a week. I haven't talked about this too much, but I'm going to just break in right here and tell you what I know about the so-called T1 high-density carrying lines for internet access and multiple communication lines. You see, I found all this out myself the hard way, because when I became an enemy to the Mormon kingdom, and I began to research who their overlords are, who really owns Mormonism, Okay, I found a very problematic source of the CIA and the NSA, which is simply the Mossad, the agency. The agency, ladies and gentlemen. I talked about this last Friday. I need to bring it in again to the discussion today. Organized crime. In 1931, when all the nation was struggling under the Great Depression, the consolidation of evil, the umbrella of evil, became solidified in America. It eventually became the nation of Israel, ladies and gentlemen. The actions and the funding and the connections with Meyer Lansky to the Irgun, his Edomite brethren, that's who formed this nation of Israel. You don't believe me? Go do your own homework. Just Google search Meyer Lansky and Israel. You'll be shocked. See, it's not just an organized crime network that he dreamed up in 1931. Meyer Lansky saw that he could control the world. Him and his Lucky Luciani Catholic Edomite brethren, they understood the importance of controlling law enforcement, controlling politicians, and controlling the way people think. And that's what they're into now. The money doesn't mean much to these guys. Now they're already multi-trillionaires. The folks at Goldman Sachs, they don't even hide it anymore. It's so caustic. It's all about, again, power now. You've got honest brokers or semi-honest brokers with Goldman Sachs leaving. They're saying, oh, this is a sewer now. You know, it's stunk a little bit before, but now, I mean, it's outright. And I mean, there's maggot in plain sight festering in this sordid waste. People just keep on keeping on. For the most part, ignorant of what's really happening behind the scenes. You see these gangsters, these mafiosos, these organized crime people, they need a front. They need a front that most people would never suspect in a million years. They need a front to money launder, to distribute their massive drug systems. And international will be even better. Folks, that has always been the modus operandi of these Edomites. They will hide themselves. They'll hide their wolf's nose and fangs behind the sheep's clothing. They will appear to be good, church-going, moral and upright people. And let me tell you, that's exactly what's happening in the Mormon church. These, you know, hey, I know I can hear it now. Don't attack these good Mormons. The people aren't the problem. The Mormon people are good people for the most part. Yeah, there's some terrible tares in among the wheat, but the wheat are good people. They just, and I know because I'm one of them. I was one of them. It just tears my heart out to see the huge amount of deception going on. You see, the Mormon hierarchy are deeply into the NSA because that's who they are. It's not just accident that this NSA center is coming into the Mormon kingdom. This has been planned for well over a decade. We're talking, folks, about total mind control now. They're not just collecting data. you have to understand where transhumanism enters into this. You see, for Raymond Kurzweil and his NSA Edomite brethren to really have what they call singularity, they must have a massive data collection center. That's the first and most primary hurdle they have to jump over. How do they build this and tell you it's good? Oh, it's for national security. It's to fight the war on terrorism, which is all a scam in the first place to begin with. Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, you have to realize how transhumanism and the transhumanist agenda, what is needed, you see, in order to have the Cray supercomputer beast rule every part of your life, they need to have a massive collection center where everything, you see, every human being on this planet, everything they say and do can be monitored, and then the computer can make 99% correct projections on everything. That's what's going on here. It is the Antichrist system of the world to come. And this shouldn't surprise you, ladies and gentlemen. Brigham Young, Joseph Smith himself, Master Masons, 33rd degree Masons. Brigham Young died a Mason first and a Mormon second. Brigham Young received weekly, if not daily, orders from Albert Pike. Massive, I mean almost daily, if not 3 or 4 times a week. Riders carrying parcels and delivering orders came to the Mormon headquarters in Salt Lake City. To when the railroad was finally completed, these communications came much faster, much quicker. And of course, telegrams speeded the process up even further. Folks, I'm telling you, listen up. We're going to have to come back after these messages. I'll continue with this Wired story with my own commentary. Thanks for listening, folks. You've got to tune in and tell your friends and neighbors to listen to this show today. I'm going to continue with this expose all week long. As long as I have a voice to speak, I'm going to start talking about this agenda. I'm going to keep talking about it and keep exposing it. This is the story behind the story. Please stay tuned. Don't go away. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the story behind the story. Yes, okay, let's go back to this Wired story. Wired is the magazine. The story is entitled Inside the Matrix. Well, written by James Bamford. Let me tell you, folks, this is right on point. But there's a story behind the point. There really, truly is. Let me get this last sentence. A project of immense secrecy, quote, it is the final piece in a complex puzzle assembled over the past decade. Its purpose? To intercept, decipher, analyze, and store vast swaths of the world's communications as they zap down from satellites and zip through the underground and undersea cables of international, foreign, and domestic networks. T1 accounts, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to tell you, are owned by Israeli organized crime, Mossad. All T1 accounts are. I found this out as who developed these fiber optic networks, these T1 high-capacity accounts. They're owned by the Israelis, Edomites, ladies and gentlemen, and as they need to, they can shut down and produce double billings, whatever you want to have them do. They can flex their muscle and let you know that, you know, they can shut you down at any time they want to. Here in the western United States, the T1 hub is located in Denver, in the Illuminati hotbed. And, the reality is you can go and broadcast from a bunker in Kamei, Idaho, or wherever, whether it's, you can be in the furthest areas. You have to communicate somehow, though. The T1 accounts and even tying into the satellite communications. These people control that network. We're on the network and we're doing what we can do, but it's a small drop in the bucket compared to what needs to happen. You control the networks, the major communication networks. That's fine. Your small micro-effect broadcasting stations and others, okay? They're being monitored. I'm no doubt this broadcast is monitored every single day. Every word that I say is monitored. And they say, well, okay, we can use this as a gauge to see how well, our propaganda and our other communications have made secure. They don't mind having the truth go out. They only mind if it starts to have a groundswell. I'm telling you, folks, you start to have even 1 to 2% of the people in this country. You have 3 to 4 million people starting to think for themselves. They will then take action. They have to take action. Because you see, they know. The computers know. We're fighting a game, you see, against a very, very complex, super artificial intelligence computer network. Okay? Now, to get to the next phase of their supercomputer, you have to have this massive data collection center. I am telling you, ladies and gentlemen, if I could scream this out, America needs to engage this like never before. You talk about dangerous. You talk about the absolute nail in freedom's coffin. This is it. There's a reason why it's so secret. If the people listening to the show knew at a tenth of what they have planned, there would be a revolution. They would picket this. You talk about Occupy Wall Street. Hey, America, you need to occupy Bluffdale, Utah. You need to block any more of this construction. You need a demand from whatever we have left as far as representatives and senators. We must stop this now. We don't need it. It's not to fight Al-Qaeda, Al-Qaeda. It's to fight freedom. This is what this NSA thing is all about, folks. And make no mistake, it's tied to organized Edomite, organized crime. That's what it's all about. I'm sorry to be so incensed about this, but it is that important. I've been lecturing on this again. I started in 2010, lecturing to onesies and twosies people. I've had, my friend Clint Richardson sponsored the Axiom conference in Salt Lake City in August 2010. For whatever reasons, I know he's trying to do the right thing. I was one of the first people he asked to be a speaker, a featured speaker at his conference. But, bigger names, bigger fish like Dr. Stephen Jones of BYU signed on, and they informed him that they would not speak if I was on the agenda. So I was relegated to Sunday morning session. Yeah, right. Who comes to Sunday morning session? Well, Clint says, well, you'll be broadcast over the podcast. You'll be professionally tape recorded, and you'll get a DVD of your presentation. That was what was promised to me. The day of the podcast, I had 150 or so people that were tuned in, and they were blocked from accessing it. The podcast didn't happen. And Alex Jones's videographing team, the videographer team of Alex, Stratford Jones, they're supposed to be professionally taping my presentation. It didn't happen. Folks, I don't blame Clint Richardson for that. I blame the Edomite powers that be for that. Because my whole presentation was simply, who are they? Who is Big Brother? Who are the Orwellian characters involved with this? Who really was responsible for September 11th? It was everything that Stratford and Alex Jones have in their utmost top of their list to stop and quit from, make sure it doesn't come out. They did their job very well. They did. Boy, I was shut down, and the whole central hinge of all of my presentation was focused on this NSA center. Still have the PowerPoint presentation. If anybody wants to have it, they're welcome to it. Top Secret America is what I called it, indeed. It's not too late, folks, but the clock is ticking. This NSA Collection Center is scheduled to be up and running September of 2013. They want, I kid you not, folks, they want to have a grand dedication September 11th, 2013. Quote, the heavily fortified $2 billion center should be up and running in September 2013. Flowing through its servers and routers and stored in near bottomless databases will be all forms of communication. Ladies and gentlemen, you get that? All forms of communication, and we're talking about the world's communication, including the complete contents of private emails, cell phone calls, and all Google searches, as well as all sorts of personal data trails, parking receipts, personal travel itineraries, bookstore purchases, and other digital, quote, pocket litter. This is, in some measure, the realization of what is called, quote, the Total Information Awareness, the TIA program, created when? During the first term of the Bush administration. An effort that was killed, if you remember, by Congress in 2003, after it caused an outcry over its potential for invading Americans' privacy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, who was in charge of this back in 2003? Yes, the same people, Kagan and others, Dov Zakheim, the Project for a New American Century, the think tank, the Michael Chertoffs of George W. Bush's regime. Isn't it just funny, as in, oh my gosh, ha ha ha, funny, that Mittens Romney has the same cast of characters as his top advisors? The same people that even came up with the idea of total information awareness? Isn't it just funny that Orit Gadish, Bain Capital, and Bain and Company are the ones funding and financing the transhumanism advanced research projects? Ladies and gentlemen, if you understand this and don't care, I guess we get what we deserve. I said this to Clint Richardson. I was so discouraged because, hey, I come to I put my life on the line here with this information. I feel like I'm bloody Paul Revere out there, but everybody's asleep. And nobody wants to turn a light on. I don't understand why people don't get this. I really just shake my head and just groan. I've been screaming about this since August 2010 is when I first became public with it. I have done radio shows. I've been guests on radio shows screaming about the NSA, saying let's get a group an organized rally, a protest. You've got to get momentum on this thing. And for whatever reason, it just doesn't happen. People are too busy occupying Wall Street, taking pity on themselves that they're part of the 99%. While this thing goes on underneath their very noses. But at least now, Wired magazine has come out with it. Total Information Awareness, TIA. You think Obamacare, the health care system, is obtrusive? Ooh, Total Information Awareness. You might as well just put everything that you have and own under a blessed telescope, microscope with these people, because there will be no privacy. Going back to the story now, and I quote, "But this is more than just a data center," says one senior intelligence officer who until recently was involved with the program. The Mammoth Bluffdale Center will have another important and far more secret role that until now has gone unrevealed. It is also critical, he says, for breaking codes. And code breaking is crucial because much of the data that the center will handle, financial information, stock transactions, business deals, foreign military and diplomatic secrets, legal documents, confidential personal communications, all these will be heavily encrypted. Nothing will be sacred. Nothing. Except maybe the Mormon temple. They won't go in there, I bet. According to another top official also involved with the program, the NSA made it an enormous breakthrough several years ago in its ability to cryptanalyze or break unfathomably complex encryption systems employed by not only governments around the world, but also many average computer users in the United States. What this means, according to this official, is simply this, quote, everybody is a target. Everybody. And I'm talking about people, ladies and gentlemen, because people now, are corporations owned by the powers that be. We're talking about every corporation. Everybody's a target. Everybody with communication is a target. And ladies and gentlemen, your very thought process is a communication. The very process of developing a cohesive thought is an encryption code. Do you realize that, folks? When they have all the information on you and your communications, they also, you say, will have, this is all part of this system. What do you think Mitt Romney did in Massachusetts as part of his Massachusetts healthcare? Every Massachusetts resident and citizen had a database started on them where they had their DNA encrypted. Do you see, ladies and gentlemen, you get people's DNA in a master computer. It's absolutely, without a doubt, possible to send via satellite pulse waves energy fields to change, not only change your thoughts, but make you think the way they want to make you think. No, Dr. Ott, that's not possible. Oh, please, ladies and gentlemen, you haven't read Raymond Kurzweil. If you think, if you think that way, you're already being programmed. It's one thing, you see, to have the mainstream media propagandize you to make you think the world's the way it is, but those that do happen to step outside the matrix, those that think for themselves and see there's a story behind the story, those people will be targeted. And those people, you see, will be controlled. One way or another. Under George Orwell's 1984 Big Brother and Big Love, you see, will unite to stop you from thinking for yourself. Folks, Mormonism is that cult. Mormonism is, again, Edomite controlled. Brigham Young, an Edomite. Joseph Smith, yes, an Edomite. Orson Hyde, pure Illuminati royal family Edomite. I've done the homework. Fritz Springmeier, before his arrest, gave me many, many clues as to who the bloodlines are. Okay. Wake up. Wake up now, or you know, this has got, you know, the angels of heaven don't want this going on. I'm convinced of that. Jesus of Nazareth most definitely does not want this to happen. The reason why is simply this, you see, when you control the minds of the people, they have no free will, they have no free agency. The whole divine rescue plan of God is submarined and torpedoed. This is a dark agenda, ladies and gentlemen. It's the darkest of all agendas. We can't possibly have heaven help us if we don't even want to help ourselves. And we can't possibly help ourselves if we don't know what the heck is going on. Total information awareness. TIA. This is tied, the TIA is again tied to the singularity of Raymond Kurzweil, the singularity vision of Kurzweil and his other Edomite padres, these godless anti-Christians. Keep in mind, Kurzweil, when asked, do you have a faith in God? Do you believe God exists? Do you believe God is even real? Simply replied, not yet. See, they're going to make God. They're going to make an artificial machine that will be their God. They can't accomplish that without a total information awareness data center, ladies and gentlemen. They cannot do it. There is no need for a TIA. There's no need for a Patriot Act because, you see, it's all a hoax. September 11th was not an inside job by Bush and Cheney. It was an inside job by the Mossad, organized crime, mafioso that control communications, that control strategic forecasting, computers in Austin, Texas, control the likes of Alex Jones and others I could name. So what are we going to do? What are we Christians going to do about it? Well, we can sit at home and pray and ask the angels to help us. That's all well and good. Prayer is not a bad thing. But, folks, you got to take actions now. I'm talking if 1 million people began to vociferously oppose this inside the matrix, this wired story became hot button, maybe we can take back this country. Maybe. Let's continue on with the story. Quote, for the NSA, overflowing with tens of billions of dollars in post-9/11 budget awards, the cryptanalysis breakthrough came at a time of explosive growth in size as well as in power. Established as an arm of the Department of Defense following Pearl Harbor, with the primary purpose of preventing another surprise assault, the NSA suffered a series of humiliations in the post-Cold War years. Caught off guard by an escalating series of terrorist attacks, the first World Trade Center bombing, the blowing up of U.S. embassies in East Africa, the attack on the USS Cole in Yemen, and finally, the devastation of 9/11, some began questioning the agency's very reason for being. Ladies and gentlemen, it's simple. The NSA is part of the criminal cartel that does these terrorist actions. Don't you see? These are not done by accident. Everything is on a purpose. Well, the story behind the story will continue after these messages at the top of the hour. Please stay tuned. Don't go away. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the story behind the story. Top of the hour. Let's do America in Jeopardy. What do you say? He is the current director of the National Security Administration. Yeah, go ahead, asked this before. You can go ahead and just keep the music playing for people to think about it. Don't need to cut off the music too early, okay? But, my goodness, people don't understand who this guy is. The answer is, who is Chris Inglis? Chris Inglis. 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 The highest ranking deputy, he's deputy director of the NSA. And I'm telling you, following this guy's career, who and what he is, what he's tied to, again, is just not surprising. Can you spell Edomite? Let's continue on with this story. There's a lot to get through in the next hour. So some began questioning the agency's very reason for being. I mean, you're supposed to be mapping all of this, right? You're spending billions of dollars a year in a budget, yet you have these so-called terrorist attacks. You have the first World Trade Center bombing. You have U.S. embassies blowing up in East Africa. You have the USS Cole attack in Yemen. Right? And finally, 9/11. What good is the TSA? See, folks, the morning of September 11th, when watching all of the Utah news channels, The LDS Church on KSL TV had the Washington correspondent on the phone and then talking personally with Senator Orrin Hatch, who sits on the Senate Intelligence Committee, right? I'll never forget what Orrin Hatch said that morning. In the most shrill, excited voice imaginable, Senator Orrin Hatch yelled, "We know who's responsible. This is an act of war," he yelled. "We know who's responsible." And then he went on to explain why he knew, why the NSA, you see, knew. Explain to the listening audience that they'd been monitoring Osama bin Laden's cellular phone communications and Osama bin Laden's terrorist network. They've been monitoring them for months, so they knew who was responsible. Hello. I was wearing a ball cap. I took my ball cap off my head and chucked it at the television screen. I couldn't believe that nobody really held Orrin Hatch accountable for what he just said. Don't you get it, ladies and gentlemen? The TSA, the intelligence network, had been monitoring Osama bin Laden's communications from his cave, wherever he was, in Bora Bora. They knew who was responsible, so why the hell didn't you stop it? If you knew that the attacks were coming, and the plan, which was to hijack, see, the official plan was to hijack civilian aircraft, use them for kamikaze planes. If you've been monitoring this, and the TSA spending billions of dollars with satellite intercepts, etc., why didn't you stop it? We're supposed to believe that some turban-headed group of terrorists, third world people with box cutters, can come into America and submarine the system? What the heck do we need the NSA for then? What do we need the CIA for then? Especially when you consider the testimony of Susan Lindauer and others, that they knew through their Libyan contacts and the intelligence of Iraq and Saddam Hussein that there was indeed a plot and a plan, but the bottom line is it wasn't Osama bin Laden, it was Tel Aviv, Israel. Oh, goodness. You can't say that. You're anti-Semite. You're a hate monger if you point the finger at Tel Aviv. Oh, my goodness. You see, ladies and gentlemen, that's the entire problem. Americans aren't thinking. They listen and hear and watch and see, and they don't compute. I asked many people the days following September 11th, 2001, did you hear Orrin Hatch? Oh, I did. Does it not bother you that he's admitted to intercepting all of these communications from Osama bin Laden, and yet they weren't able to stop it from happening? No, doesn't mean anything to me. Please. Oh, please. So the story continues. Quote, some began questioning the agency's very reason for being. In response, the NSA has quietly been reborn. And while there is little indication that its actual effectiveness has improved. After all, despite numerous pieces of evidence and intelligence-gathering opportunities, it missed the near disastrous attempted attacks by the underwear bomber on a flight to Detroit in 2009 and by the car bomber in Times Square in 2010. There is no doubt that it has transformed itself into the largest, most covert, and potentially most intrusive intelligence agency ever created. Ladies and gentlemen, more intrusive than the SS of Nazi Germany. Quote, in the process, and for the first time since Watergate and the other scandals of the Nixon administration, the NSA, quote, has turned its surveillance apparatus on the United States and its citizens. That's the whole agenda post-September 11th. You see, folks, you got to understand that Patriot Act was not written just the day or week after September 11th. That traitorous piece of garbage, the Patriot Act, was written and debated in 2000 and even early. Parts of it were debated during the Clinton administration. You need a new Pearl Harbor, say, to terrorize the people enough to allow such a thing to begin. An NSA, that's what I said in my presentation, an NSA collection center of this scope and magnitude would never have even been allowed at all pre-September 11th. Think about it. Top secret America would not have been even thought of in the minds of Americans. It would never have been allowed for a second without September 11th. Quote, the NSA has turned its surveillance apparatus on the United States and its citizens. Why do you think they need to do that? Because you have to understand who they are. The NSA, the CIA, the Mossad, it's Edomite Israel, folks. The Edomite Jesuits, the Edomite Mormons, and the Edomite transhumanists. Citizens of America are their enemy. Why? Because we are the bastion of Christianity. Ladies and gentlemen, you gotta get a handle on this. You absolutely have to. Quote, the NSA, has established listening posts throughout the nation to collect and sift through billions of email messages and phone calls, whether they originate within the country or overseas. Quote, it has created a supercomputer of almost unimaginable speed to look for patterns and unscramble codes. Finally, the agency has begun building a place to store all the trillions of words and thoughts and whispers captured in its electronic net. And, of course, it's all being done in secret. To those on the inside, the old adage that NSA truly stands for never say anything applies more than ever. That's the first part of the story. My hat's off to James Bamford. There needs to be about 100 more cover stories of this nature. Maybe then America can say we've built enough of this, we're abandoning it. We don't need to go there. We Americans who love freedom do not need this. We don't need to stop people from thinking. We don't need to subscribe to the Mormon prophet's adages that when the Mormon prophet speaks, the thinking has been done. You hear this, people that are not Mormon, and you look at me like I've lost my mind. Nobody could be that brazen, but it's true. The Mormon prophet, the Mormon people, the good Mormon people, they're honest. They'll say this is exactly part of Mormonism. They're not to question their leaders. They're not to question especially their Mormon so-called prophet, their leader. For when the prophet speaks, the thinking has been done. You're not to think. No matter what, if he leads you astray, well, it's righteousness in the Mormon mind to follow the prophet even if it's over the edge of a cliff. Boy, if that isn't Edomite, that isn't the total opposite of Jesus of Nazareth, I've never heard it. Jesus of Nazareth tells his disciples, there's no stupid question. He tells them to ask, seek, and knock. It's an acronym. A, ask, S, seek, K, knock. Knock, knock, knock. Seek, seek, seek. Ask, ask, ask. And think about it. God made give you a brain to think with. Not to put it behind your backside and sit on it. Oh, but when the prophet speaks, thinking has been done. Oh, how dangerous is that? The story continues, quote, a swath of freezing fog blanketed Salt Lake City on the morning of January 6th, 2011, mixing with a week-long coating of heavy gray smog. This is the infamous Salt Lake Valley inversion, ladies and gentlemen. It's nasty. Quote, red air alerts warning people to stay indoors unless absolutely necessary had become almost daily occurrences. And the temperature outside was in the bone-chilling 20s. Quote, what I smell and taste is like coal smoke, complained one local blogger that day. At the city's international airport, many inbound flights were either delayed or diverted, while outbound regional jets were grounded. But among those making it through the icy mist was a figure whose gray suit and tie, the man in gray, he's a gray, and made him almost disappear into the icy background. He was tall and thin, with the physique of an aging basketball player, with dark caterpillar eyebrows beneath a shock of matching hair. Accompanied by a retinue of bodyguards, the man was NSA Deputy Director Chris Inglis, the agency's highest-ranking civilian, and the person who ran its worldwide day-to-day operations. A short time later, Ingalls arrived in Bluffdale at the site of the future data center. A flat, unpaved runway and a little-used part at Camp Williams military base, ladies and gentlemen, a National Guard training site. There in a white tent set up for the occasion, Ingalls joined Harvey Davis, the agency's Associate Director for Installations and Logistics, and Utah Senator Orrin Hatch, along with a few generals and politicians in a surreal ceremony. Standing in an odd wooden sandbox, holding gold-painted shovels, they made awkward jabs at the sand and thus officially broke ground on what the local media had simply dubbed the Spy Center. Hoping for some details on what was about to be built, reporters there turned to one of the invited guests, Lane Beatty, of the Salt Lake Chamber of Commerce. Did he have any idea of the purpose behind the new facility in his very backyard? Quote, "Absolutely not," he said with a self-conscious half-laugh. "Nor do I want them spying on me." End quote. For his part, Ingalls simply engaged that day in a bit of double talk, emphasizing the least threatening aspect of the new center. Quote, "It's a state-of-the-art facility designed to support the intelligence community in its mission to, in turn, enable and protect the nation's cybersecurity." End quote. While cybersecurity will certainly be among the areas focused on in Bluffdale, what is collected and how it's collected and what is done with the material are far more important issues. Hear, hear. Yes, sir. Battling hackers makes for a nice cover story. It's easy to explain. And who could be against that? Then the reporters turned to Hatch, who proudly described the center as, get this, quote, "a great tribute to Utah." Then added, quote, "I can't tell you a lot about what they're going to be doing because it's highly classified. Orrin Hatch, you son of a gun, you good Mormon boy, it's not secret, it's sacred." What he's telling you, see. Can't tell you what's it about because it's highly classified. This is the guy that, again, when 60 Minutes interviewed Gordon Bittner Hinckley, Mike Wallace interviewed him, they did a sub-intro to the story by interviewing Mormon Orrin Hatch. Orrin Hatch revealed he carries underneath his shirt every time. He wears on a gold chain the clenched fist encircled in a Star of David, the symbol for Edomite conquest throughout the world. And he made it an issue that he was 110% pro-Israel. I'll never forget that interview because I said, oh my goodness. This is a senator that's supposed to be representing Utah and the people of America? And he made a point to tell his, you see, the Jewish overlords of the media, the Jewish owners of the communications networks, see, I'm your boy. It was There was no other reason for him to show his loyalty to Israel in that interview. This is an interview about Gordon Bittner Hinckley in the Mormon Church. Thank you, Senator Hatch, for bringing the NSA to our doorstep. You traitor. The story continues, quote, and then there was this anomaly. Although this was supposedly the official groundbreaking for the nation's largest and most expensive cybersecurity project, no one from the Department of Homeland Security, the agency responsible for protecting civilian networks from cyber attack, spoke from the lectern. In fact, the official who'd originally introduced the data center at a press conference in Salt Lake City in October 2009 had nothing to do with cybersecurity. It was Glenn A. Gaffney, Deputy Director of National Intelligence for Collection, a man who had spent almost his entire career at the highest level of the CIA. As head of collection for the intelligence community, he managed the country's human and electronic spies. Folks, I really did. I tried in January of 2011 to organize the huge protest. I wanted to see 1,000, 2,000 people there at that groundbreaking, screaming and holding placards and saying, you know, we are not the enemy. I can't, you know, it's not good for me to go there alone and do it alone. You need to have thousands, at least hundreds. Couldn't get anybody interested. The reason, I'll tell you the reason why the media in Utah had been pumping this as, you know, the gold shovels. It's a golden parachute for Utah. Too many people had connections to concrete companies, to construction subcontractors. See, the media was explaining how this was going to be really 25% of Utah's economy and the job basic. There's people lining up to be trained for this center. The University of Utah is doing recruiting. It's a massive recruitment for high-paying jobs, beginning salaries of $70,000 and plus benefits. In other words, let's just sell out to Big Brother and prostitute ourselves. Can't protest. Can't protest progress, Dr. Odd. It's so what do? Quote, within days the tent and sandbox and gold shovels would be gone, and Inglis and the generals would be replaced by some 10,000 construction workers. Quote, we've been asked not to talk about the project. Rob Moore, president of Big D Construction, one of the 3 major contractors working on the project, told a local reporter. The plans for the center show an extensive security system, an elaborate $10 million anti-terrorism protection program, including a fence designed to stop a 15,000-pound vehicle traveling 50 miles an hour, integrated closed-circuit cameras, a biometric identification system. Ladies and gentlemen, that means he scans your eyes and scans your hands. Just everything George Orwell showed. Biometric identification system. A vehicle inspection facility and a visitor control center. Inside, the facility will consist of 4 25,000 square foot halls filled with servers, complete with raised floor space for cables and storage. In addition, there will be more than 900,000 square feet for technical support and administration. The entire site will be self-sustaining, with fuel tanks large enough to power the backup generators for 3 days in an emergency, water storage with the capability of pumping 1.7 million gallons of liquid per day, as well as a sewage system and a massive air conditioning system to keep all those servers cool. Electricity will come from the center's own substation built by Rocky Mountain Power to satisfy the 65 megawatt power demand. It's a mammoth amount of energy, comes with a mammoth price tag, about $40 million each year. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, this is all good for you. Yes, don't worry, don't question. It's secret. No, it's not secret. It's sacred to your well-being. Well, let's get a handle on this thing. I know it's mind-blowing, it's mind-boggling, and thinking about it, it gives me a headache. It does. And I guess this is the other part of the problem. To so many people, it's way too complex to fight against. But you see, that's the problem. You got to remember that that's what they want you to think. You see, it's really quite a simple thing. The technological capacity of the center, it's not even a speck of dust. God's mind, the Creator's mind. Men think they're so great and so powerful, but they're not. When you connect to Source, when you connect to the Creator, when you become born again, I mean truly born again, not just some flashy, flash-in-the-pan thing on a Sunday morning, you realize, folks, that the Creator is there to understand you and to help you. It's important, it's critically important that we have freedom. Freedom to think, freedom to act, and freedom to speak. It's called the basic human rights, ladies and gentlemen, of a free republic. We got to stand up for this, and we got to demand this stop now. We don't need this. The world does not need this control. It is evil in the extreme. And those who will want to reign over us in this manner needs to be exposed. And I don't have a problem saying this. Needs to be tried and convicted and hung by the neck until dead, because it affects all of the people of this world. It affects the freedom. We're not talking about an American Revolution here, folks. We're talking about a worldwide demand for basic human rights now. They've gone too far. Let's get some ideas of the numbers now. We talked about 65 megawatts of power. That's huge. That's darn near all of what the entire city of Salt Lake City uses in a 24-hour period. It's going to cost you and me, whoever however you cut it, it's part of the government largesse. $40 million a year just in energy, ladies and gentlemen. $40 million a year. That's just for the power to turn it on. Quote, given the facility's scale and the fact that a terabyte of data can now today be stored on a flash drive the size of a man's pinky, the potential amount of information that will be housed in Bluffdale is truly staggering. Get some number. According to the 2007 Department of Defense report, quote, the Pentagon is attempting to expand its worldwide communications and spying network known as the Global Information Grid, GIG, G-I-G. They want to expand it to handle what they call yottabytes, Y-O-T-T-A bytes, yottabytes, as in Yoda, you know, the teacher of Luke Skywalker. That's right, you do it. To handle yottabytes, it's 10 to the 24th power, 10 with 24 freaking zeros behind it, bytes of data. A yottabyte, ladies and gentlemen, is a septillion bytes, so large that no one has yet even coined a term for the next higher magnitude. According to, again, Cisco, who is Edomite-controlled, recent report by Cisco, global internet traffic will quadruple from 2010 to 2015, reaching 966 exabytes of data per year. Okay. 1 million exabytes is a yottabyte. Right? In 2015, they're saying that this will increase to 1,000 exabytes per year. So the capacity, you see, of the NSA Data Collection Center is for 1 million exabytes a year, not just 966. In terms of scale, quote, Eric Schmidt, Google's former CEO, once estimated that the total of all human knowledge created from the dawn of man to the year 2003 totaled 5 exabytes. Singularity, you see, ladies and gentlemen, indeed, the transcendent man. Oh, yes, indeed. Let me repeat that. Eric Schmidt estimated that the total amount of all human knowledge from the dawn of civilization, the dawn of man, to the year 2003 totaled 5 exabytes. In 2011, it's estimated that more than 2 billion, roughly 1/3 of the world's 6.9 billion people, were now connected to the Internet. By 2015, market research firm IDC estimates there will be 2.7 billion users. This is why they're justifying this. They're saying, see, the NSA needs this 1 million square foot data storehouse. You have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, the book Singularity, the Transcendent Man vision of Edomite Raymond Kurzweil. He says we must have this facility, otherwise we'll never be able to achieve immortality and godhood. I kid you not, folks. You see, you have to control every breathing person on this planet's thought process, and to do that, you've got to have this massive supercomputer to make it all happen. There can be no other explanation for this center, folks. There is no other possibility. It's not to keep track of Al-Qaeda. Good heavens. By Orrin Hatch's own admission on September 11th, they already had control of Al-Qaeda. They just didn't stop it. See, it wasn't Al-Qaeda at all. It was al-Mossad. Oh, boy. What they're projecting here is that the 1 million square foot data storehouse facility in Bluffdale will have many yottabytes of information. They have the ability to access, and in a split second, ladies and gentlemen, read and compute 500 quintillion pages of text that quickly. Do you think for a minute that's to monitor Al-Qaeda? Do you think that's at all about protecting national security? No, ladies and gentlemen, what it's all about is producing the vision of these godless Edomites, this control. They want a supercomputer to rule us all. That will be their God, because they will be the one controlling the power plug to this. And this is a debate of transhumanism. This is a debate of these transcendent men, these singularities. This is the idea of these Scientologists, ladies and gentlemen, is that, well, they can control this beast, this computer. Really? That's what the movie Eagle Eye, Hollywood's production of this crazed supercomputer. Is it possible that the computer can protect itself, and anybody that even wants to control it becomes the enemy? As the comic strip Pogo said, I got this so many years ago, Pogo looks wistfully out and says, "We have met the enemy. He is us." Quote, "The data stored in Bluffdale will naturally go far beyond the world's billions of public web pages. The NSA is more interested in the so-called invisible web." What? Visible web? What in the world is the invisible web? Also known as the deep web or deep net. Data beyond the reach of the public. This includes password-protected data, United States and foreign government communications, and non-commercial file sharing between trusted peers. Quote, "The deep web contains government reports, databases, and other sources of information of high value to the DoD and the intelligence community," end quote, according to a 2010 Defense Science Board report. Quote, "Alternative tools are needed to find and index data in the deep web. Stealing the classified secrets of a potential adversary is where the intelligence community is most comfortable." Quote, "With its new Utah data center, the NSA will at last have the technical capability to not only store, but rummage through all those stolen secrets." The question, of course, is how the agency defines who is and who is not a potential adversary. Oh, well, ladies and gentlemen, it's no problem who the adversary here is to this beast. The adversary is people like Dr. H. Truat who think and understand what's really going on in this world, who think deep and understand the Edomite agenda. Yeah, you bet I'm the adversary to these bozos. And if there's 100 or 200 or 500 or 1,000 other people who think the same way, they are adversaries as well. I'm an adversary to this Luciferian agenda. You bet your bottom dollar I am. I would hope that there are millions more in America. But you see, they won't become adversaries and they don't know. And they won't know until they have the truth. And if this system, you see, is employed, if this system is allowed to go online, you won't even be able to think about it. That's the danger. That's the danger. You see, if you control garbage in, you also control garbage out. There's a great chart of this web here on the Spy Network outline. The Utah data center is like the heartbeat. You have collection centers from satellite, the aerospace data facility, Buckley Air Force Base in Colorado. It all ties into the data center in Bluffdale. NSA headquarters in Georgia, Fort Gordon, Augusta, Georgia. NSA Texas, Lackland Air Force Base. NSA Hawaii in Oahu. Domestic listening posts, what are they? Overseas listening posts. Multi-program research facility, Oak Ridge, Tennessee, right near Memphis, you see. NSA headquarters, Fort Meade, Maryland. The White House, the CIA, the Pentagon. It's the very epitome of George Orwell's 1984 nightmare, folks. Oh, yes, you'll be safe, but you'll be in a cocoon. You won't be allowed to rock any boats. You won't even need to think about it because, you see, we don't need thinkers. We just need busy bees. Ladies and gentlemen, Brigham Young's The Edomites' Vision for Utah. He called it the state of Deseret, the nation, if you will, of Deseret. When Brigham Young came here in 1847 in Utah, Utah was not a part of America. It was a part of Mexico. It was a foreign country. Brigham Young set up his state of Deseret. Deseret is Hebrew. It literally means the honeybee, ladies and gentlemen, the honeycomb, I should say. Deseret is the honeycomb, or the beehive. You come around to Utah, you go into the Utah State Capitol, go around to all of the iconic early Mormon history sites, and you see the honeybee and the honeycomb, the Deseret. That's a symbol of industry. Utah's state symbol is the honeybee, industry below it, right? Well, the ancient accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry, the Illuminati kingpin Albert Pike, he understood, again, the prophecies of Lucifer concerning the Antichrist system to come. In the Encyclopedia of Masonic Symbology, ladies and gentlemen, we read and learn that the honey comb, or the beehive, is the Masonic symbol of the Antichrist system to come. When I understood all of this is when I said, oh my goodness, I I can't follow Jesus Christ and be part of the state of Deseret. I can't be a part of the Antichrist system to come. I had to leave this Mormon beehive. So I did. And so I did. I've never looked back. Now we see why. We have the Antichrist system of the world to come. Yes, the beehive of Lovedale, the epicenter of, again, big love. 9,000 polygamists strong, living the principle of Brigham Young. And the Mormon Church and Orrin Hatch and Mittens Romney wanting to make sure that the principles of industry, the principles of Deseret, the honeybee, control the world. Make no mistake, this is their agenda. I explained on the radio show yesterday, and tried to explain it to Tex Mars, it's not a Jewish question. It's not Christians against the so-called Jews. It's Christians against the Edomites. It's Jacob, which is Israel, against Esau, which is Edom. That's what it's about, folks. I gotta let people know once again. It's, all Jews are not Edomites. They're not all Edomites. You gotta understand that. All Mormons are not all Edomites, and not, by the same token, all Edomites are not all Mormon, are not all Jewish, are not all Catholic. Why, far from it. I would think they're in the minority. We're talking about the ruling body, however, the Pope, the cardinals, the Mormon First Presidency and Quorum of the 12. Oh yes, they are Edomites, completely and totally controlled. They do not dare step outside and tell the truth of what they know. They will be taken out in a heartbeat. Secret societies, yes indeed. And what's going on here in Utah is it has to be broadcast throughout this entire free country. Call it whatever you want to, but I don't think it's free any longer. This nation of America is in deep, deep trouble. And the reason why it is because, again, a small minority of enemy, small minority, 2% roughly of the world's population, these Edomites have gotten to a position of incredible technological power and control. They only can do so, you see, if they keep the goy, if they keep the Christian masses ignorant and distracted. And indeed, they've been doing a fine job of that. I admit I have a weakness, I have a vice. I like watching and used to love playing the game of basketball. It's just a game, though. It truly is just a game. Talk about March Madness. People go crazy, go mad with this NCAA basketball tournament. You see pavilions jammed to the gills, people spending many thousands of dollars traveling to put on their game faces, their colors of their shirts, and to travel and boost their team. And you see, just again, who is behind this? Who began the NCAA structures of football and basketball and other sports? Who is behind the NBA and the NFL? The billions of dollars control. Who started it? Who started the whole Harlem Globetrotters, folks? You turn over the rock and you see, yeah, there it is, the Edomite controllers once again. All designed to keep people occupied. Christian America, occupied with things that really, really don't matter. Well, it's what it is, folks. I got to tell you. Now, let's finish up. We just got a few minutes, and we'll have to continue this tomorrow because there's still more. There's still more. Quote, before yottabytes of data, the deep web and elsewhere can begin piling up inside the servers of the NSA's News Center, they must be collected. To better accomplish this, the agency has undergone the largest building boom in its history, including installing secret electronic monitoring rooms in every major U.S. telecommunication facility. Do you understand this, ladies and gentlemen? Whether it's AT&T or some other facility, it is designed now to have electronic monitoring. It goes on and on, folks. You've got to understand this is just happening for the last 15 years. These hubs are doing a great job. The bottom line is, the former NSA official we're going to talk about tomorrow said he put his thumb and forefinger close together and said, quote, we are just this far from a total turnkey totalitarian state. Hey, you have a great time, ladies and gentlemen, thinking about this. I know I am. I know I am right now. Time to take action. We'll talk again tomorrow. Be well, be safe.
What's going on? Well, just got my shipment of freeze-dried food from the freeze-dry guy. I was laying away our family supplies here.
Dad, you're not planning to have an emergency, are you?
You don't plan